Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? I'm Mike, giving Joe a break for this week's intro so that I can hit you with a very special announcement. That new show we've been hyping for the past few weeks? Y'all ready for some details? Well, premiering this Tuesday on YouTube, Goldfingers, a data-driven Oscar prediction video series hosted by me, Mike King. That's the name, you're hearing the theme song behind my voice, and if you're watching this episode on YouTube, you're seeing the intro. This is something Joe and I have been planning for a very long time. And like we always say, the Oscars are our Super Bowl. But unlike sports, they can be very predictable, if you know where to look. And personally, I'm a data nerd. When I used to look up Oscar predictions from my favorite experts, I always hated that they didn't show their work, they didn't explain why one movie was more likely to win than another. So that's what I aim to do with this show. I'm going to take you through the awards season beat by beat using precursor awards, trends, news, and a little bit of intuition to predict who will be nominated and ultimately who will win for every single category at the 91st Academy Awards. I'll explain more in the first episode of Goldfingers premiering this Tuesday, but if this sounds like something you want to tune in for, be sure to subscribe to our channel by searching How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up on YouTube or find a direct link at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. Sorry for the long intro, I was just really excited to tell you guys about Goldfingers, but let's get right into this episode. No guest this week, just enjoy our drunken review of Bradley Cooper's directorial debut, A Star is Born.
Hey.
What?
Sorry, I had something in my throat. Hi, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing A Star is Born. Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting MC hammered and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
That is a really good synonym, and I'm so glad that we got that from Samantha Imperato on Facebook. Sam, you need to talk to your fucking husband and get him on this fucking podcast
really
to review
do.
Trainspotting 2. We've been waiting since it came out months ago. Dan, please go on the podcast. Samantha, thank you so much for that wonderful synonym suggestion. If you also have a synonym suggestion, you can suggest those on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Gmail, Snapchat, wherever you can get in contact with us.
You name it.
We would love to get your synonym on the podcast, as we did for Samantha. All right. Joe, you want to introduce the liquor sitting betwixt us this episode?
I would love to. Well, when you're in Pennsylvania, you cannot sell beer and alcohol in the same store. So I'm sure it's pretty lucrative, really, to have a beer and alcohol store next to each other. So the beer store that I usually go to, whatever store was next to it closed, and they reopened it as a liquor store. And you know what? Guess what was on sale? Guess what was on clearance? It was Cold Cock, an American herbal flavored whiskey.
Yeah.
And so let's try this. We already poured shots out.
We've been sipping on this for a little bit.
It's essentially on ice right now.
So we've been describing it as like, it's sort of like Fireball. It's got like a spicy sort ofness to it, but it's got like it's herbal flavored, so
It's not.
I can't put my finger on which herb exactly I'm tasting in there, but I've been saying it tastes like a fucking like a whiskey cocktail, like just pre-made, and it's similar to like Fireball as well, like a like Fireball without the real cinnamon bite to it.
I'm not
Like
gonna lie.
you could take shots of this, or you like we are totally fine, just sip it and.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. I bought this and I kind of thought it was just gonna be straight up whiskey, and then
In a cool, like that's a great fucking.
oh, this is a
right
great
there.
bottle.
Get cold cocked.
But then when I took a shot of it, I was like, oh, this is smooth as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it does taste like Fireball, but it tastes like almost like spearmint as opposed to like
Yep.
like red cinnamon
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. Yeah. So I recommend it.
I would heavily recommend. Hell
It's
yeah.
smooth.
How cheap did you get this for?
smooth as fuck.
How on sale was it?
It was about $15.
There you go.
So let's go.
That'll draw me in as well.
Um,
We are, of course, reviewing A Star Is Born, which I
we
feel like
are.
is like a much awaited review for us. I've just been seeing shit about this movie for so long, and it's sort of like an Oscar frontrunner right now, very early in the game, but like
It is. I mean,
it's also one of the first Oscar contenders to like come out.
we
too.
may or may not have an Oscar series coming out on our YouTube.
We may or may not. You should find our YouTube.
It should definitely be coming out, or we're
Search
gonna
How
have
Many
a problem.
Fingers Am I Holding Up on YouTube. Subscribe to that YouTube. You can also find a direct link at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. But yeah, we're going to do an Oscar prediction series. The
Right.
name, not ready to announce it quite yet, but
We have an idea of what the name is.
we know what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's. I did very well predicting the Oscars last year. I expect to do well this year, and I want to sort of use that format in a weekly video Oscar prediction series.
If you want to,
We'll keep updating the predictions as they change based on precursor awards that are coming out. And
most importantly, if you want to impress your friends with some Oscar
if you want to sound
predictions,
cool around the water cooler,
exactly.
so
Listen to this.
subscribe to that now. It should be coming out in the next month or so as
On our
the
YouTube.
Oscars start to heat up. But yeah, Joe, you want to read that IMDb description? I'm going to get right into my notes for A Star Is Born.
I would love to. A musician helps a young singer find fame, and even as age and alcoholism sends his own career into a downward spiral. I bet it does.
So, A Star Is Born is a remake of a 1937 film of the same name. That 1937 film starring Janet Gaynor and Frederick March.
Is this not like the fourth remake
It
of this film?
is the fourth remake. It was also remade in 1954 with Judy Garland and James Mason, and in 1976 with Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson, and then it was also made in 2013 as a Bollywood film as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's been in development since 2011. Clint Eastwood was originally attached to direct, and Beyonce was set to star.
I'm
and,
not surprised. I'm not surprised by either of those
and
things.
that whole
yeah.
thing obviously fell apart. And at some point, Bradley Cooper became attached. So he obviously directs it, acts in it, and he's got a hand in the script as well. So yeah, directed by Bradley Cooper, and it's his directorial debut. He's an actor best known for his roles, obviously, in the Hangover trilogy, Silver Linings Playbook, American Sniper, American Hustle, a lot of movies with American in the title, and obviously Rocket Raccoon from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've got a screenplay by Eric Roth, Bradley Cooper, and Will Fetters. Roth is an Oscar winner for his Forrest Gump screenplay. He's also written The Postman, The Horse Whisperer, The Insider, Ali, the Muhammad Ali movie, Munich, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, and a whole ton of others. He's got a pretty extensive filmography, and a lot of those are like Oscar Best Picture nominees. I mean, he won for Forrest Gump, but I don't know if the others were nominated for screenplay, but Best Picture nominees at least. We've got Fetters. He's mainly done romance writing. If you look on like his IMDb, all of his like big movies have the same composition of like a white man and a white woman, and they're just so close to kissing on the poster. It's literally all four of his top movies are like that. So he's written Remember Me, Georgetown, The Lucky One, and The Best of Me. They're all like, I don't know if any of them are actually Nicholas Sparks, but they're that like Nicholas Sparks type romance movie.
There are white people close
white
to
romance.
kissing. Yes. Right, yeah,
Just about like sort of the music production, I thought this was interesting. After seeing him perform at Desert Trip Festival, Bradley Cooper approached Lucas Nelson, the son of country music singer Willie Nelson, and asked him to help work on the film. Nelson agreed and wrote several songs, which he sent to the producers, and Nelson subsequently met Lady Gaga and began writing songs with her, and she, in turn, provided backing vocals on 2 tracks on his self-titled 2017 album. The soundtrack, produced by Gaga and Cooper, was released on October 5th. The studio announced that the album features 19 songs in a wide range of musical styles, plus 15 dialogue tracks that will take you on a journey that mirrors the experience of seeing the film. So I've been listening to this soundtrack recently. It's 34 tracks in total, as I just said. And the dialogue tracks are like all under a minute. They add nothing to the soundtrack. Some are like even under 30 seconds. They're like 10 to 19 seconds long. It's clearly like it's clearly the studio like picking up on like the common trend in like music now is like put your album out at like 20 to 25 fucking songs because you're getting like money per play, per stream
numbers, yeah.
So the more tracks you have on your album, especially a quick 10-second dialogue track that can get a play in between all these other like tracks that people are actually banging to, and there's just more, you know, money in your pocket. So it's clearly Interscope Records trying to game the streaming system with movie soundtracks now.
Make that Drake Scorpion.
I want that Scorpion length on my
didn't need
A Star Is Born soundtrack.
Didn't need to be 25 tracks, but it was.
At least those were 25 actual tracks and not
No, definitely, right.
15 dialogue tracks that add nothing to the experience of it. Like,
so
put your dialogue in an actual song, like Broadway, like original cast recordings have dialogue, you know, often in there, but it's with you know, with the actual like score playing underneath and whatnot in between stuff, and it's attached to an actual track. It's not a 30-second track that you're gonna play and they're gonna make like 0.0001 cents every time you play it. I just thought that was an interesting thing. But yeah, we can get into A Star Is Born starting right now.
This is Lady Gaga's first acting role since Sin
American
City.
Horror Story. Was she Sin City?
Oh no, she was in American Horror Story. She was also in.
Was she in City?
She was in Sin City, A Dame to Kill For.
Did that one even come out?
Yes, remember that?
Was it the Johnny Depp one?
No, it was the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one.
Yeah. I didn't see that one.
She was also in like that one episode of The Sopranos where AJ. You fucking AJ.
Lady Gaga's in The Sopranos?
AJ, he fucking AJ. He sneaks back into school and they're in the pool and they order a pizza and they're throwing like the principal's desk.
They're fucking
in the
vandalizing
pool
the school
or whatever.
I do remember that now.
She's one of the girls who's like smoking a cigarette and being like, AJ, you know,
AJ
like,
Soprano.
Oh, AJ. And then obviously the owner of the pizza shop is like, yeah, there's only one boy who orders that kind of pizza, and I'm not gonna tell you fucking pigs about it. So
AJ, you fucking cocksucker.
So that was Lady Gaga's first acting role, I believe.
I love The Sopranos.
As do I. But fuck.
You want to start on Lady Gaga? You got some grief to bear about Lady Gaga?
I think she's best actress material in this fucking film.
Oh, are you serious?
She's good.
Oh, damn.
She's fucking good.
That is not a predicted Joe take.
Fuck. I didn't think this movie was going to be good, but I think she's good, and I think she should be nominated for Best Actress.
Damn.
And just, like, out of everything I've seen so far, I'm going to take a shot.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No, I do think she's good.
That good, or you're playing that up for...
No. I do think she is good in this film. And
I'm waiting for the punchline. I can't take you seriously.
Mike is giving me the look. No, I do think
we've had such a laugh at this film's expense prior to it coming out that I have a hard time accepting Joe enjoyed any of this movie.
Let's talk about this film before it came out.
Yeah.
Okay. So we see the trailer, and the trailer is honestly God, here's the thing, is that the scene in the trailer is when Bradley Cooper brings Lady Gaga on the stage, and he says, hey, I'll get later into the fucking ridiculous premise of how this song comes about.
Play this song you sung for me once in a parking lot.
Yeah, no.
I've got some things to say.
Right. He's got an entire arrangement ready from like his blackout parking lot experience. But when this scene happens, I'm sorry, I fucking feel some real shit.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and you're going to agree with this. This is an incredibly emotional scene. This is a really great scene.
Them doing shallows for the first
right,
time.
No. This is them doing shallows for the first time. She shows her vocal range and everything, and she's great. Honestly, I think we, if we are the producers of this film, we put in this scene for the Oscars. We go, okay, like, it's just like, she doesn't go on stage at first. She has a whole range of emotions that go through her face. I think there is actually some like really great acting.
Well, when you consider the fact that it's Lady Gaga doing this, who has for sure been on fucking huge stages.
Most definitely.
Like, yeah.
Most definitely. But also, she goes through a whole range of emotions where she's just like, I kind of thought like this was like a booty call, or like I'm kind of like I'm on the side of the stage, and meanwhile he's like,
it's an actual shot.
It's an actual thing, and obviously she doesn't want to fucking humiliate herself, so she doesn't get on stage, and then she kind of comes to term with like, well, he's gonna do it anyway, like I might as well kind of get on stage, and then she does actually get on stage. I think even from the side of the stage to actually on the stage, there's a wide range of emotions that goes through just acting through her face. And what is he apologizing? Is it? Anyway, it's just like it goes through all of that.
Oh yeah,
and.
It's the premiere scene of this movie. There's a reason why it's in the trailer almost in its entirety.
Oh no, most definitely. As I will get into later in this podcast episode, I think the film peaks at this scene. This is the strongest scene. Obviously, this is why the scene is in the trailer. Submit this scene though. Mm-hmm. This is really great, and I think some of the other stuff that I'll get into it. But whatever, it's a great scene. It's a really great scene, and she does really well in this scene. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's all I really have to say about this scene.
I mean, I'll get into it. I appreciate Lady Gaga in this movie. I think her vocal performances obviously are unmatched. And a huge portion of this movie is singing and it being kind of like this huge long like music video for Lady Gaga at times in this movie. And I don't think she's by any means bad ever in this movie. I think I have to wait to see what else is going to come out this year before I'm like, oh, put her up for like the Oscar for whatever, Like it's not bad. There's times where I was like, oh, is that Best Actress worthy in my opinion?
No.
That scene's not one of them. That scene's fantastic.
It's no Emma Stone La La Land.
How do you mean that?
I'm saying she was nominated.
You're saying if she was nominated, it wouldn't be as big of a ridiculous notion as Emma Stone. Let's start more at the beginning of this movie. So, like,
definitely, we started at a weird
the setup of these characters. Where, all right, so we open literally on like Jackson, Maine, this like big like tracking shot following him as he's like drinking and getting ready to go on stage and whatever. And I do like that shot. I think I like a lot of the camera work in this movie. And I think it's pretty well shot.
It does also establish him as doing kind of like Hunga Dunga Nickelback songs. Like kind of like...
Well, no, that's sort of my problem is I don't know...
Is he country?
That's what I'm wondering. Who is Jack? Because that's sort of like like alt rock, like almost like Octane rock. Like I couldn't like that reminds me more of like almost like a Pearl Jam type of like he's a legacy act at this point. He's on the downward trajectory of his career. So I want to know what made Jackson, Maine, and we don't really get that in this movie. We get him playing like sold out arenas because I understand there's like logistics
really
to it.
It's hard to understand what he is.
It's hard to make a movie where you have like a half filled arena, Like they have him at sold out arenas, and I just want to know like why, like what is his claim to fame? Because he's got like this like by the wayside like song that he's doing in the first scene, which is not nearly as catchy as the other shit we have in the rest of this movie. But then like later on he's playing like that what's the one like just acoustic song that they replay it like 3 or 4 times. The oh god, the hook is in the title, and I'm totally blanking on it right now. God damn it, I'm totally forgetting. I think I
Old
wrote
ways die kind of thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe
Based
still
on
the old ways
die.
die. Like, all right, so what that is like clearly very different from like his like big band stuff that he's doing, where he's using this like big gritty voice, and it's almost like rock, and I mean maybe on like the tail end of like grunge again, like a Pearl Jam type thing going
He's
on.
almost like Nickelback-ish, though.
Is that what you think? Like you think it's like Nickelback?
Yeah.
Because he seems like he's playing.
No, exactly.
He's playing at the Grammys
I
to honor,
don't totally
which is more like a
understand
Foo
it,
Fighters type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
I just want more help placing him, and I don't think they did the work of like, who is Jackson Maine? I mean, he's also like he's like a solo
That
act, or is he
fucking name,
in like
too,
a again like
He's kind of just
it's
fucking,
Norman Maine in the originals, and they've just changed it to Jackson Maine, which is almost better than Norman Maine.
He's just fucking desperado Maine.
yeah, because also like the originals, it's not a music thing. It's like in the original, I think it's acting.
Right.
At one point, it's like dancing, like showgirl type like thing. It's changed what genre the star is coming up in. And I think this is the first one where it's fully music besides the Barbra Streisand one.
He looks like he's country, though.
He does, yeah. He presents his country, but he's playing these like sort of like rocks. Like they should have just made him just straight up. He should have been a fucking like Keith Urban thing, and it would have at that point it would have made total sense. Like we could have just been like, okay, like country is a huge fucking genre in this country, and like you don't even really have to have a huge claim to fame. You can just put out a bunch of albums as a country artist, and you're a legacy act at some point.
But I mean, yeah, but it does get into lyrical kind of like, let's let the old ways die. Like that's not a very country theme. And then later in this movie, he kind of criticizes themes that are very country themes. We'll get into that though.
I mean, there's a bunch of different types of country now, and there's disagreements about what's real country and what's bro country now.
Right.
And
But the only thing I can really like kind of get some sort of like grasp on him is that later Sam Elliott, who is his brother, after he's done kind of maybe managing Bradley Cooper, he goes on to manage maybe Willie Nelson. And so maybe that's something that's similar to, like he's got, Bradley
Willie
Cooper.
Nelson is huge because he's got these like huge iconic hits, and like
Right.
it's a little bit harder. It's harder to place
It's hard
these,
to understand, yeah.
but I think they could have done a little bit more work with that. And it's also like the movie is obviously very much about his sort of fall from grace, and it's harder to gauge that where I don't know where he's starting from.
Right, yeah.
Like a Nickelback is much different than a Pearl Jam. Like an Eddie Vedder is much different from a Chad Kroeger.
Right.
So I need to know like where we're starting from. Or like even like another comparison is like the Foo Fighters, and if he's like a Dave Grohl, that's much different than an Eddie Vedder or a Chad Kroeger.
Yeah.
And I'm fine if it's like if they're trying to portray him as like a ripoff of those characters, because it's an alternate universe. I'll totally buy into that. But just where is he supposed to be in that sort of pantheon of music? And then, like I said, like don't show these like sold out arena shows that he's playing. I know that they had to film in actual festivals, which are packed, and if people know that someone's filming something, they're all going to be there. But maybe tell like half those people to leave, because it's hard to buy that he's on this like declining career when like everybody's there fucking like ready to just listen to whatever songs he's playing.
He's also like enter a bar and everybody knows his name artist. So that's really hard too. It's just kind of like he goes into a bar and you're kind of like, oh my God, I don't know how to act around.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like,
Everyone
and that comes
recognizes
into
him.
it too. Yeah.
I really liked the flow at the beginning of this movie. Like you come from that like like one take like tracking shot concert footage, and then it just kind of like goes like it's in the moment. It's very moment by moment with these characters. We're really getting to know them, and like we're following Jackson Maine. He's in the limo. It's him coming down from the concert, and he's talking to the driver, and he's like, "Oh, let's go find this like bar or whatever." We're following them as they make their decisions, minute by minute, pretty much. And I really like that pace to this movie, and I really hate when they step away from that at the end of this movie, because like we follow this whole like chance encounter he has at the bar, pretty much minute by minute. He meets Lady Gaga. We follow them like all night as they're having this like romantic night. And then kind of after that, it's like skipping around days and months and like whole time periods even. And I don't like that switch in like pace of the movie. They should have picked one and stuck with it, or like not spent as much time being in the moment and then being like, okay, and now we're going to go to like a biopic mode where we're gonna, like, you know, keep jumping around and jumping around.
This film as a whole, without any spoilers, none of it's really like original thematically. Everything covered in this film.
Remake of another movie.
No. Yeah, even looking past kind of like it's a fucking fourth remake of a movie. It's nothing in this movie is really original thematically. It's just.
I probably poured too much, so if you want some,
kind of the same shit.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, pour some if you want some. But some, I don't know. Without getting into spoilers, I think some things that happen in this film feel cheap dramatically. I think, like, again, talking to friends of ours, like, I think it's like it's going to get your audience to cry kind of thing. But, like, is it earned? Yeah. And, like, it's also like, does that feel organic to your characters? Again, this is something that I think we'll discuss later in the episode, but it bothers me.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. And again, we've talked about this off mic and everything, and it's hard to keep track of what we talk on and off about mic just because we're so just fucking like, yeah, okay, I don't fucking like this movie. But it's hard not to compare this to La La Land. I think we talked about this with Joe Mano, where it's just, I think we might have talked about this with him like off mic, but it's two white people kind of falling in love with music. I don't know. And again, it is an Oscar.
A white guy mansplaining music to a girl.
Oh my god! And it's a front runner.
Yeah.
For Best Picture at this moment. And
even at the end of the day, like even if this doesn't end up being the final front runner, this will probably lead the day in total nominations, just because it's got all those music stuff that it's going to pull up to grab those extra stuff, and it's also not entirely undeserving of some of the other awards it's going to end up getting. You know,
also
like you could give this a production design award, you could give this, you know, cinematography even.
Also, I wasn't crazy about La La Land, but I think maybe La La Land it's
an impressive movie at the end of the day.
I think maybe it had more of an original premise than what this movie has, because it's I don't know, as opposed to like, I'll show you the ropes of what stardom's like. It's kind of like two people. Yeah.
Hey.
What?
Yeah, I just want to get a look at you. You're gonna get real sick of that before the episode's over.
I'm so sad that I can't provide like a comparison between this and like one of the three original films. I don't know. Just because,
I read through the plot descriptions of all of them.
Just because I think there's such a different construct of fame right now. Mm-hmm. You know? Do you have a...
Well, I didn't think this movie had anything particularly interesting to say about fame, or... I mean, I don't want to jump
it didn't.
I don't want to jump too deep ahead to like my overall thoughts about the movie, but I don't think this movie had anything really interesting to say about anything in the end. Like I thought it was a technically well-made movie that was technically entertaining to watch, but like again, at the end of the day, if you're gonna like be an Oscar frontrunner, then you're rolling with the big dogs, and I want to be touched, and I want to be moved, and I want to feel like you've got something to say, you know, especially for a movie that is so much about like, you know, you gotta have something to say with your voice.
Oh, suck my dick. It's oh god, I have so much to say about this fucking Bradley Cooper character, and about like
there's a bunch of interesting notes about that too when we get into that.
About it's just about like the kind of we'll talk about it. Anyway, I don't know. Let's start on it. So what I'm gonna say is, One of my favorite scenes of this film, besides when they first do a duet of The Shallows, which we've all seen in the trailer, is an incredibly powerful scene. It's crazy. Like it might be the most. It's the most powerful scene that I've seen this year,
because it has like American like Idol like drama built into it, where it's like this underdog stepping on stage for like 1 million people, and she fucking like hits it out of the goddamn
kills
park.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
Like that's what we all tune into, The Voice or American Idol,
But-
or any of those America's Got Talent or whatever.
Aside
for.
from that, one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when he's already met Lady Gaga, yada yada yada, and she is punched and she's got like kind of this swelling eye, and they go into a supermarket.
Well, no, she punches the cop and she's got a swollen fist.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She's got a swollen fist, and
Or it's going to swell.
No. Thank you for that. And they go into a supermarket and they buy like frozen peas to kind of like tape around her fist or whatever. And the cashier takes a picture of Bradley Cooper, and she still has like the flash and like the sound effect on, and she's like, "I'm sorry," and Bradley Cooper's like, "Oh, it's fine," and then Lady Gaga's like, "No,"
not, though.
She's like, "It's not fine," and like I think that is like that's the fucking core of what this movie is and what it should be. And I think as we go on in this movie, it just strays further and further from like this beautiful moment of like kind of her, and again, her in this bar, and this cop who's like, my girlfriend fuck somebody who like looks like you kinda, and then she fucking punches him and everything. She's got such a strong opinion of this, and it's so endearing, and it's so like it's such a great premise and everything. And then we totally alienate that for the rest of the film.
And then she gets fame, and she's got nothing to say about fame at that point either.
Well, no, yeah, it's this entire beginning of this film where like, so I don't know, her character is so endearing. I love her. Like it's just I love her. I fucking love her, dude.
You hear that, Lady Gaga? I love you.
Her character is art. I do love this character because it's already so.
And I want to shout it from the hilltops.
It's like her character is already so developed in everything, and I think it's a completely different movie for the first half an hour of this.
Because it's 4 movies. So
Yes, no, it's a completely different movie for the first half an hour of this movie, and then the rest of it is a completely different movie for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know. It's just it's
the pacing. Like I'm saying, like we're in the moment for a lot of these first scenes, and then we're kind of just jumping around and hitting all like the greatest hits of, just to get the main plot points, and we're not really getting the personality or the character, or the feeling so much from the rest of these characters. And
It
like
is.
the thing, I think what suffers the most is like we get this like great night between them, where you're kind of like, oh, like I can see the spark of a relationship there, and then I don't really feel anything after that because it jumps around so much. Where like I don't know if this is like, I don't know what the time period is. I don't know. Is this like a relationship that's like blossoming over a year, or is this like some like quick like
so.
Pete Davidson, Ariana Grande like
No, yeah,
fast,
I think that's
like,
exactly
thing that's
what
gonna
it
like
is.
burn out.
Right? Yeah.
But I don't know what it is, and if it is that like fast thing, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we are, but I don't feel for it. I guess in that instance because it's just too quick, and yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of weird stuff where, like I really like when it's like in the moment, like I've been saying this whole time, but it also like reveals some stuff where like when they're in the when he first goes into the drag bar and he goes back and he meets Lady Gaga Ally in like the dressing room, and he just like his character has no respect for other people's personal space.
Yeah.
You heading out?
Oh yeah, love you guys.
Check out a review of Venom 2 weeks ago with John.
Nailed it. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Have a good one, dude. When he goes to like the drag bar and he's in like the dressing room, and he's just kind of like those eyebrows, can I take them off for you? And he just like reaches onto her face and like peels her eyebrow. It's a very weird thing to do within like 20 minutes of meeting someone and not even that much conversation. Like he's kind of just been like, I'm sort of smitten with you. I want to come back and whatever and talk to you. And then he's just like peeling her eyebrow off. And then they're at the fucking bar. It's another scene that's been in one of the trailers. And they cut immediately to like her sort of revealing her like biggest vulnerability, which is like, you know, I think I'm this talented singer, but every time everyone hears me sing, they just talk about how they wish I looked different and how like my nose was different. And he's like, fucking love your nose. It looks great. Can I touch it? And he's just sitting there like touching her nose. And like, I have a big problem with that scene. Like, I think it's like a weird invasion of personal space. And like, I almost wish they would come back to that as like an actual character flaw of Bradley. And that would be something to say about fame. Like, you know, like when everyone feels like they know you, you feel like you know everyone and you're entitled to do these things that you can't really do as a normal person. And it's not always okay. You know, Jackson, like cool it off a little bit, stop touching people's faces. But also it's like when someone has like a very big like insecurity, like their nose, like this character does. I've been with girls who have had that same insecurity of their nose, and like they're not really cool with you like being like, oh, I fucking love it, let me fucking like touch your nose, and like they don't want to talk about it anymore. They want to fucking move on from it. And like I have a hard time like buying that concept of like her not freaking out at him being like, oh, I think it's beautiful, let me touch your fucking nose, you know? Like then that's not really true insecurity there at that point if you're really just ready to like turn the switch like that, you know? I don't know if that's just me with my personal experience there, but that felt very ungenuine to me.
When I came back from this movie, the first complaint I had when I was, talking to everybody, or Sabri, I was just like, the entire time I was anticipating Lady Gaga being like, you know, like, it's, like, this is dialogue from her, you know, like, it's not okay for you to touch, you know, to take off my eyebrow, to touch my hand, to feel my nose, I really like you, but it's
too much.
It's not okay to do that just because you're famous.
Yeah.
You know? And I was waiting for that to come the entire time, even after maybe it happened, and be like, okay,
I thought when they started fighting, that was going to be something that she brought up.
Exactly.
You know?
And it was never
seemed
a point.
to me so much like I'm fine with him doing that shit if it's a character flaw and not some endearing thing that he's doing. All right, so let's, since we're still sort of in this like first scene, let's talk about how ridiculous it is that like she just hops on stage and he's got this like full arrangement of shallows. Like, I know Bradley Cooper is a semi-musician. He helped write some of the music for this. That was part of how he was able to pull Lady Gaga in to the cast, was they like, at least as he said in interviews, it's like I forget if he said it was at his house or
Bradley.
He went to her house, but he talks about this meeting where they like sat down at the piano and like they just were able to connect in that way, and like he was able to
kidding. I love you, Bradley.
hold his own musically against Lady Gaga, like one of the greater performers of our generation, at least. But I think this movie as a whole has a really poor understanding of how songwriting and live performance works. Like,
so let's talk about this scene, because
the parking lot.
Yeah, no, because Bradley Cooper, or his character, is probably kind of he's dangerously drunk. He's blackout drunk. He's like fucking...
It's the norm for him, but he is very drunk.
Exactly. He doesn't remember anything drunk. And he's kind of entertaining this girl, and they're in the parking lot, and Lady Gaga is kind of just like spitballing. I've just been writing this song, yada, 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 this incomplete song idea. And then like less than 24 hours later, he's just kind of like, I did an arrangement. I hope that's all right. And then like he kind of just starts singing this song, which again,
with
like,
new lyrics.
his backing band like might have like on average taken like 2 months or something to like drum up something like this.
Well, I mean, that part I can sort of buy, because like if he's like a solo act and his backing band, they're like professional musicians that are for hire. Like they're not like his band as much as they're his band for that tour type of thing. Usually with solo musicians like that, like
most
and
definitely.
they've definitely got a connection. But like they're the type of guys where he can just be like, all right, the chords are like G, E, B, C, or whatever, and they're like, all right, yeah,
But also,
and they can vibe along to it.
But
and-
also, Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga,
but
no one to come in on the bridge.
That's my
and,
problem. Is that like
it's
in the
just-
parking lot, she sings half of a song. She sings it a cappella. She sings it really slowly. She's like the tempo is not what they end up like arranging it at, and she's singing it really quietly. And then he just takes like a little piece of that from memory, and he writes a whole song around it at a different tempo. Probably a different key, unless he's got like perfect pitch for like memory and whatnot. And then he expects her to just like jump right in and perform it on stage. Like, I sympathize more with Lady Gaga's
Right,
character in
yeah.
that scene of being like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, no, I'm not gonna go sing this on stage." Even if I was the most confident person in the world, like, there's been no preparation here, and like, it's songwriting. Like, it's not just like, oh, we've got this idea and we can just like vibe off of it. Like, she sang like these different parts, but it's like where do the choruses start? Because he sings something that she hasn't heard before, and she's supposed to know like where to come in. And it's like they sing a part the shallow la 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 la, like that whole shallow part. They never sang that in the parking lot, or if
That's
they did
not
it,
a thing.
if they did it got cut.
That's a new invention.
So
yeah.
she like, how did she know to come in there? And it's like, it's also like, I think from like just a standpoint of like feeling and emotion, that's like really a rude and presumptuous thing to do, to be like, oh, this like song that you've been working on, like, oh, I just took it, I'm gonna start playing it in front of this audience.
I'm
and
a plate no matter what.
with no talk about royalties or credit or anything. Like, I mean, he does say that she wrote it and whatnot. It's just, I think what angers me is that I really like that scene. I just don't think they did the right preparation for that scene.
Right.
Like, wouldn't it have been more effective and like realistic and, dare I say, like romantic, to have had a scene where they actually work on writing that song together and they connect over this love of music, and then the movie has something to say about music is this really deep connection between two people, you know? And then when, like, I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but like there's like a speech like towards the end of the movie where Sam Elliott's like, you know, all he talked about was how you saw the different ways between 12 notes, and he loved the way you like that means so much more if we really feel and see this connection about them working on music together. Like, god damn, I can imagine a fucking scene where like they keep going on this like bender around the city, and they end up at like a hotel lobby or something that's got a piano in it, and they let him fucking play it because he's Jackson Maine, and they work on a goddamn song together because he loved her voice so much, and he's like, you know, play me a little bit of some of the songs you're talking about that you write. And she plays it, and he's like, well, what if I do this song? And then they write a fucking song together, and then it makes sense when she comes on stage, rather than her in the parking lot, as we're supposed to believe she's this like shy, undeveloped character, just out of nowhere being like, no one fucking acts like that. Even if you're the greatest musician in the world, like, you don't just unprovoked be like, there's dead space. Aren't you tired of being so hardcore? Like, no one just starts singing out of nowhere like that. It makes no sense. I wish someone who was an actual musician had been involved in the screenwriting process of this. Someone who had like actually written songs originally, to be like, it doesn't work like this, no matter how talented of a musician you are. She may be the most natural musician in the world. She can't just freeball the chorus and where things come in, you know? Especially because like it works that way, where like he's singing like lyrics that she hasn't heard before. That's fine. There's a little bit of a pause. It even feels pretty natural in the movie. She comes out, she sings her verse, she gets it. But then she jumps right into the chorus without knowing when that's supposed to come in. Like in the parking lot scene, she's like, oh, here's like these whatever. And then she talks a little bit. She's like, oh, I had this idea, and maybe this could be like the chorus and whatever. It's not like the music even cues up to it. It's just verse, 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 verse. I'm of the deep. Like it just jumps right into There's no like pickup in the music. It's just, it doesn't match. They needed a little bit more. And I think there's a perfect scene they could have thrown in there with them writing the song together, and then I would have totally bought this connection that they have, where they're these two musicians who feel music so deeply, and they've never had that person to like really work with truly together, and they finally find it, and then fuck it, I'll buy that they're gonna get married in like 5 months and have this like hot flash of a relationship. I'm totally buying it then, but I buy it less when there's this drunken parking lot scene where he's rapping peas. That's cute, but that doesn't make the rest of the movie work.
Right.
Sorry, I had to go on a rant there. That was
No,
my biggest problem with this
That
movie.
is, it's such a, God, it's okay. This isn't an insult. I mean, it might be. It's however you take it, because it's a genre, but it can also serve as an insult. This is a melodrama film. It just, it's both a genre, but it's both. It can be an insult. I don't know. Also, Bradley Cooper can fucking, for your fucking first film, like, learn how to fucking shoot a wide shot. Because this film is entirely close-ups. His depth of field is entirely just like...
You didn't like the cinematography in this movie?
I mean, his depth of field is shallows. He's on the deep end. He doesn't know how to shoot a fucking wide shot. This in film is currently just like.
It is a lot of that.
It's fucking entirely just like on faces. It's like just. It's so.
I
tight.
listened to them. He was on the Directors Guild podcast. It like just dropped like Thursday or something like that, and Jason Bateman was the one who interviewed him. It's a pretty entertaining episode. Not all that informative. They're just kind of funny people to hear talking. But he does talk about sort of his thought process for like framing and setting all these shots up. And he has a conscious, like, he's trying to start from like wider and going shallower, but he just starts from very shallow, because he talks about that parking lot scene, and he's like, yeah, man, he's like, form follows function, and like, the function is like, we're trying to get like in closer to this relationship, so like the form is then that like, we're like over the shoulder, French over the shoulder when they're in the parking lot, and then we're literally in between them, but like, yeah, they're literally there's not that like, what's the setting, let's pull out and like big like that. Like, he starts from over the shoulder and then just kind of gets in deeper to the where he's literally in between these two characters.
And sometimes that's okay, because it's crazy, because like he has these gigantic fucking set pieces of like, oh my god, what if I'm at like the Hollywood Bowl or something, and like the audience is packed and sold out and everything, but like, it's like, what if I'm at the Hollywood Bowl and the shot is just on my face? Like, it's crazy.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I have to say, I was sort of just defending your point. I don't really have any problems with the cinematography in this. But I think that's because it's just aesthetically pleasing throughout. But maybe, the less than thoughtful or erroneously thoughtful composition leads to why I have a harder time connecting to this movie on a deeper level. Like, I think a lot of the things about this movie are fantastic on an aesthetic level, and I don't really fault anyone who wants to completely sing the praises of this movie. Like, I can totally see myself in a different universe, totally falling in love with this movie. But again, when like I'm seeing this as like the best picture like front runner, I'm like, this hasn't even been a great year for movies, and I've seen some better movies than this one.
It's a La La Land
just on like a feeling and emotional level. So this is something we've like kind of made fun of, where like his voice sort of it sounds the same as Sam Elliott's, and they acknowledge it in the movie.
I don't know if Sam Elliott in this movie makes it a better.
Well, so here's the thing.
Okay.
Sam Elliott's in this movie because Bradley Cooper sounds like Sam Elliott. You don't want to hear this; it's going to ruin it for you.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
but I don't know if it makes it better. Right.
No, it doesn't. It makes it worse.
Okay.
It makes
and
he starts developing.
I already know what you're going to say.
He starts developing the voice for this character, and he's drawing inspiration from Sam Elliott. And then someone probably says to him like, "Oh, it sounds like Sam Elliott," and he's like, "You think Sam Elliott wants to be in this movie?" They write a part for Sam Elliott because his voice sounds like Sam Elliott. I think a lot
of this movie is improv, yeah.
And they make him like a brother character in this movie. And I'm even fine with that. Like, but then they literally write a part in the script that's like, "You stole my goddamn voice, Bradley Cooper." And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
You stole my voice.
Like, I don't even like, I like that concept, not necessarily stealing the voice, make it about his singing voice or something like that. Like, like I can totally buy into this arc that they're trying to go for, of like Sam Elliott being this older brother who had a talent of his own, but Jackson's the one that made it, and he maybe didn't necessarily make it on his own originality.
Right.
Make it be about, they already have this history of they're in a band together. why does any of it have to do with his singing voice when it's a movie about music? Make it be about his singing voice. They're literally talking about like his talking voice, like you stole my goddamn voice.
You stole my voice.
You didn't have anything good to say.
It was the most meta scene I've seen in a movie
was-
of all time. It
It was meta, and then you find out that it's true, and you're like, oh, okay.
Also, I love Sam Elliott.
And he is great in this movie.
Okay. He's
Calm down.
okay. Calm the fuck down. He's great in The Big Lebowski, let's say. However, I do not think he's good in this movie. I think like when him and Bradley Cooper are arguing in this movie when they're on stage.
I'm about to make out, and he's
Oh
like,
my god, it's completely unintelligible. It's very like it's and then it's and like I wish I could understand it, but it was like it was totally incomprehensible. It was totally just like it was Sam Elliott arguing as somebody that like was doing an impression of Sam Elliott, and it was incomprehensible. And honestly, I would have loved to understand it, but I didn't understand exactly what both of them were saying. And then also later, spoiler alert, we're going into spoiler territory, is when Sam Elliott was dropping Bradley Cooper back off at his house. And then Bradley Cooper's like, it wasn't Daddy that I always looked up to. It was you. And then Sam Elliott, God, this scene would have killed me if it was any other actor. But Sam Elliott was like, ah! Like, it was just...
I was literally going to bring that up as why I like Sam Elliott in this movie.
God.
I like that scene.
No, I don't.
I like that directorial choice of staying on that shot.
I don't like this at all. It doesn't work at all for me. It doesn't.
Because you're not buying that he's actually emotional,
No. It's bad acting, I think.
No, I liked it. I think it's just the right amount of like. I think you could have really overplayed it, like you just did.
It's goofy.
No, because he doesn't even contort his face. It's
he doesn't stay in the parking lot. He's just like, look, it's just like it's.
I like it. I think it's a really good portrayal of sort of like the confines of masculinity, where like
if you're not in this,
he doesn't
this YouTube video.
He doesn't want to cry in front of his brother. He doesn't want to be seen crying. And he's trying to just get the fuck out of there. And like you can hear there's like a car passing when he wants to back out. So he's just got to sit there waiting to get. He just wants to get. I don't know. I bought it. He wants to get the fuck out of there. He doesn't want to be crying. He doesn't even want to admit to himself that he's crying in that scene. I totally bought into his character in that. I think that's his best scene of the movie, and I'll stand by that.
No, there was laughs in my theater. It was a goofy scene for me.
I defend you, Sam Elliott.
I was like, oh no, they shouldn't have.
I'll put Sam Elliott up for an acting nod over Lady Gaga.
No, okay. There was a scene where I was like, oh no, that's why Sam Elliott shouldn't be. I think. Okay,
my opinion of it is that Sam Elliott as a pretty incredible actor is doing the best he can with not the greatest role, and I think that scene is Sam Elliott just his pure talent showing through in maybe not the it's not a role that he can really spread his wings in,
Let's agree though. When Bradley Cooper is just kind of like, well, Daddy would have been like real proud of this or something, and then Sam Elliott's like, you were just Daddy's drinking partner or whatever, like behind the stage, and then they really get into the hunky tonk kind of like argument. That's maybe where I wouldn't have cast Sam Elliott, because all of a sudden it turns into.
I think I would have directed Sam Elliott different in that scene.
Because
I think Sam Elliott's character is more of one of again like the confines of masculinity.
Right.
And I think that's what that fight is more about. But then like Sam Elliott like grabs him by the head. That's a very vulnerable that's too close of a connection for two brothers, I think, to have when I think their idea is supposed to be about
Would you
masculinity being this cage for them.
Listen, I think I'm a real stupid person.
Especially with this like
Okay.
gravelly voice, like and Bradley Cooper looking up to Sam Elliott. Like, I don't think he would do that. I think his character would be more reserved, especially if Bradley Cooper is modeling himself after Sam Elliott. And Bradley Cooper is definitely someone who doesn't give a lot of himself in a vulnerable way.
Right.
Besides through his music.
most definitely. And again, I think I'm a real stupid person when it comes to movies. But I think I don't know. Like, I think even in my stupid kind of like interpretation of this movie, I said Bradley Cooper is doing a Sam Elliott impression without knowing Sam Elliott was in this movie. And then later I read reviews where it's just kind of like Sam, like Bradley Cooper is arguing with Sam Elliott. I was like, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy. Because he's doing a Sam Elliott impression. And I think, you stole my voice is a genius fucking line for this movie. But I just still think there's something like
It's
that
dumber that he created this voice for his character, which I'm fine with. But don't put Sam Elliott in the movie and don't make the whole conceit of this that you stole his talking voice.
Right,
like, who fucking cares?
Right, yeah.
You're from the same family. You all sound alike. Like,
Yeah.
people can barely tell us apart on this podcast sometimes. Like, much less like two people who are related by blood. Like, make it about the music. The whole movie should be about music in some way.
Especially when the movie's so meta. I mean, like, let's get into, it's just fucking ironic that Bradley Cooper is teaching Lady Gaga how to be a pop star. I mean, we also have something like...
Before we get too far away, I just want to like close up that
Go
whole
for it.
stolen voice thing, is that to also tie it back to like not knowing who Jackson Maine is and where his like legacy comes from, like his sort of history. We just know that like, oh, he played a concert and there's a ton of people there and they are cheering for him. We don't really know. They don't even have a whole, like, they have people like snapping photos, so we know he's famous. We get that context,
right.
But like we don't know like what do people like him for. We could have really used a line that was like, oh, your earlier stuff was better or something like that. We haven't really got a whole arc of his whatever. Something that would have given a whole lot of context is if that whole stolen voice thing really was about stealing Sam Elliott's musical style, since they were in like a band together, and it would have so much more to say about Jackson as a character, where like he's got everything with him is about like, oh, have something like important to say and whatnot like that. Like if he made his whole career on like a stolen sound, it's a primo fucking character right there. Like I'm totally down to buy into this fall from grace, and I'm totally down to buy into even more so it like elaborates on his relationship to Lady Gaga, where she has this truly original voice and he's like, fuck it, I've never made anything original in my whole life. I stole everything about me, but you have this true whatever voice and I'm totally drawn. It would make everything in this movie better for it to have been about a stolen musical style or a stolen singing voice rather than the way that they marble garble.
Let's get into
the back of their throat.
Let's get into the fucking roots. Why does a fucking black woman say that, like, oh, like, I love you or something? Or why does she say, like, oh, like, I'm sorry, I took a picture of you. Like, why is she, like, a fan of, like, this?
Yeah, what is his whole
right?
It's
so strange, and it seems like I'm gonna get into this later. But, okay, we're in spoiler territory, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, why does he die?
He dies in all the other movies.
Well, no, most definitely. But why does he die? I think it's a fucking awards kind of category thing. It's all fucking...
Within the movie or like outside of it, like you think it's an Oscar?
I think it's an Oscar push.
That he dies in it?
That he dies in it. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I don't think that's why they chose him to die. I think he dies in the movie because he dies in every other.
Oh, most definitely.
It's just part of the Star is Born story. He has this cataclysmic fall from grace.
Here's the thing:
he kills himself. He drowns himself in the one.
Of course, right in the Atlantic Ocean and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's that's great for that film. But I think like Bradley Cooper makes a lot of strong decisions in this film, and they're all very different from the past 3 films. Again, from over like 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago.
200 years ago?
No, exactly. I mean, I think there's something where if Bradley Cooper was still alive, it wouldn't eat.
Rest in peace, Bradley Cooper, the actor.
No, I mean just the character of Bradley Cooper was still alive. It wouldn't be so
Character Bradley Cooper.
right. Yeah, I
Jackson
mean,
Maine.
if Jackson Maine was still alive, I don't think it'd be like a crazy change. Like especially how the construct of fame have changed and everything. Obviously,
Again, I buy the trajectory at the end of this movie.
I don't buy it. I think it's.
I don't think they did the work before that. Again,
Almost
I
definitely,
think
yes.
I need a better understanding of who Jackson Maine is as a figure.
be
I know
like
he's famous, but famous encompasses a lot of people. You know, like Alison Brie is a famous actress, but
It's like Dave Matthews.
we're not
is a
doing
famous-
like a
yeah.
big. She's not getting a big piece in the in memoriam at the Oscars if Alison Brie dies. You know, there's whole different types of legacy that you can leave behind, and this guy who's like selling out like arena tours, like I need to know what he meant to music, and I think I need to see that he's on the start of a decline, and I think there's a bunch of ways they could have done that without having to be like he's at the top of his career, he's playing these sold out arena tours. And then 2 months later, someone else is replacing him at the Grammys to do whatever his name is cover, Roy Orbison cover.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about it because
Is that Miles Teller?
No,
It looks like him.
it doesn't.
The
It's
guy
not.
who does
Yeah.
the younger guy who replaces him on the Roy
Right.
Orbison vocals.
I don't know who he is. But let's talk about it because I think this feels like 2 movies, and I love the first movie. And again, nothing against the kind of like romantic fantasy of this movie. I think melodrama, it's a real it's like a real genre, and they exist. But I think this goes from realism to kind of like melodrama very quickly. It's kind of like it starts in a drag bar, and it ends with kind of like like Lady Gaga, you're nominated for I can't say it without laughing. You're nominated for 3 Grammy Awards.
Yeah.
It sounds like that like Next Time on Lonnie, like when he's like recording that rap album, or but just a more relevance. It sounds like that one scene in Zoolander when he's kind of like like Zoolander, like in that time that you were just talking to the interviewer, you were actually nominated for 3 awards. Like it sounds like that scene is literally exactly like that. Like I laughed out loud when they were like, hey, listen, I know you were just doing a fucking photo shoot, but you were also nominated for 3 Grammys during this time.
The movie switches from like
goofy.
having something to
It's
say
goofy
about
as fuck, yeah.
fame and just like celebrity, and then it switches to trying to say something about like success rather than like there's like all these like interactions with fans in the beginning of the movie, and then we literally never get that for Lady Gaga's character, which like fucking show that for her if the movie is about this sort of like converging like x-axis of like Bradley Cooper's career is on the decline and Lady Gaga's career is on the rise. Like let's show like people not recognizing him and people recognizing her. I really wanted more of like, I was really intrigued by him being jealous of her early in the movie. Like they have the scene when like she's first, like she's signed to the manager right away and like she hasn't really recorded anything yet, and she's
Right.
and they're talking about whatever, and he's like super drunk.
Okay.
It's a fantastic scene, and they're talking about like, oh, like he's talking about like he wants to sign me to like Interscope Records, and he's kind of like, yeah,
Yes, a really great
he
scene.
falls
yes.
off the fucking couch, and then they like sort of take their sort of pseudo argument into the bedroom, and she's like, oh, are you a jealous boy? Are you jealous? And he's too fucking drunk to even say anything, and then he just puts like a fucking cake in her face. And then we don't touch on his real jealousy of her later than that. Like, I'm totally fine with the scene ending like that too, because like, you know, he's too prideful to even admit that he's jealous of it. You know, he's gonna end it with his drunk shenanigans of here's the fucking cake and then we'll go have fucking sex because it's a whatever moment. I'm totally fine with that. But bring that shit back, especially when they're arguing later on. You know, like he tries to make it about like, oh well, your music's not like meaningful or whatever. But like, I really need to see more of his decline. I need to see more of her rise to fame as well, and I need to see how like they're sort of meeting in the middle, and then she's surpassing him, and how does that really feel for him as what used to be a pretty big like legacy act or something like that. Okay, got a lot of big complaints for a movie that I enjoyed pretty thoroughly. But
most definitely.
Like I said before, if
God, Jesus.
This is why you need to subscribe on YouTube.
Oh man, I just sat on the wrong part of a fucking bench.
I'm so glad that's up.
Yeah. Okay. But
as I was saying, I have a lot of complaints with this movie, but I did enjoy it very thoroughly. But a huge complaint that it almost seems like inexcusable to me. Why is Dave Chappelle in this movie if he's only in like one sequence of it? Like, why cast that character if you don't want to like elaborate on his friendship really with Jackson Maine, their like early years, whatnot? He's clearly a musician. They've got the scene where he's got all the guitars or whatever, so he's probably related to Jackson's early years as a musician, probably the rise to fame. Like, again, something that we need more elaboration on in this movie. And like why not merge that character with like Sam Elliott's? Like, because Dave Chappelle doesn't come back when the rehab shit comes around. He's just there. Like, Bradley shows up at his house one time and they have like a good breakfast together, and then he kind of like peer pressures Bradley into getting married to Lady Gaga. Like, what a weird fucking scene.
What is
like,
Bradley
it
Cooper?
Literally felt like Dave Chappelle, that character was in there just to convince the audience that Jackson Maine is country, but he's not the racist type of country. You know what I mean? Like giving him a real meaningful part in this movie if he's his best friend. Like, have him show up when the rehab is there, when he needs him most. Have him show up. Like, we really could have used like a funeral scene in this movie. As much as that's a cliche, like they didn't really tie up how all these relationships really work together. And like,
why does Bradley Cooper pass out in Chappelle's like front yard? Like, why is that a thing?
Yeah,
I kind of never completely understood.
There's like a line in the trailer that gets cut out of the movie where like Dave Chappelle is like, you know, I've known you my whole life. This is the first time I'm really worried about you. It's a great line in the trailer, and they totally cut it out of the movie. And it, like, I don't know, it says a lot, or it would have said a lot in the movie to be like, I'm concerned about you.
Right.
But I think it ends up not fitting with what actually shows up in the movie, which is like Allie shows up, and then they have this weird, like, sort of eloping wedding thing where, like, I know eloping is part of the original movies. It's something that they do, but it doesn't make sense for me in this movie. It feels weird. It feels weird for Allie. It makes sense for Jackson because he's an addict. He's someone he's chasing a high in every aspect of life. He's someone who can be impulsive like that.
Right.
It makes less sense for Allie, who's got this like really strong connection to her father and her best friend, and to just be like, oh, I'm going to get married, and they're not going to be there, and I'm going to get married like at the suggestion of this person I've just met over breakfast. Like, I haven't even spent a night with.
Yeah, no,
we haven't even finished our first meal together.
This scene is so
Dave
bizarre.
Chappelle is like, hey, I've got a fucking pastor friend. You guys can get married right now. And she's not like, I don't know, maybe let's like wait, like we can do it tonight, maybe. Like,
no, this scene is so bizarre.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, I think Dave Chappelle is a great. I don't know.
It's well cast.
I think it's great meta casting for like somebody who is better to talk about the cost of fame and like running away from it and everything. But it's just like
I wanted more of him.
No.
Yeah.
Most definitely, it's just like the casting is very clever, but like I'd love for the movie to be more clever. I don't know. It's just it's.
I have a feeling that there's like a 4 or 5 hour cut of this movie somewhere, and they're just kind of like, all right, it's getting a bit long, Bradley. It's your first movie. Let's keep it to 3 hours at least.
Right.
And they had to cut a bunch of stuff, and maybe they didn't cut the right stuff.
Did they even talk about like? Jeez, we're drunk. It's the third episode of tonight, but just
brought me a new beer.
no. I would always do that for you because I love you.
Even though you stole my goddamn voice.
Listen, I've arranged a song. Me and the band
I heard you humming in the bathroom.
me and the band have worked on it.
Over the past 30 seconds, we worked something out.
They just took my word for it.
There's a crowd of 2 million people watching.
All right, when you were spitballing,
You know what to do. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
when you were like just fucking spitballing in that parking lot of that fucking 7-Eleven. I was.
Wouldn't that be great if there's like an alternate version of this movie where he's like, because he's blackout drunk, he misremembers the lyrics. It's like this horrible fucking song.
Oh god.
Oh, the deep end. Just right,
shallows.
She's like, oh, no, Jackson. No.
Come on the stage. Come on the stage. No, I don't think I want to come on stage.
This movie just ends with both of their careers tanking.
Oh god. I don't remember what I was gonna say. I don't know. Oh god, there's so much of this movie.
There's like a weird thing where like the movie starts to get some things like it's able to throw around these like references to our current culture that we're living in, where it's like, oh, you got nominated for a Grammy, or you know, you have to go accept like best new artist at the MTV whatever, or you're like the musical guest on SNL and Alec Baldwin is the season finale host. Like that seems like something that could literally happen like right now. But like I said before, like the movie,
Lonnie, you just got nominated for.
The movie it jumps around so much that like I don't know what the sense of time is for the movie, much less for like Allie. Like, and we don't like we really needed like. It's like a weird movie to compare this to, but I think it's one of the greatest like music. It's fictional musical biopic type movies. But That Thing You Do, you ever seen that?
Yes.
It's like directed by Tom Hanks. Got a bunch of great people in it. It's sort of like a Beatles, almost not a parody, but like a Beatles synonymous type act. But they have a great scene in that movie where like they've gotten signed to this sort of like crappy manager as their first manager, but he's able to get their song on the radio, and they're just hanging out like in the car, and then they hear that the song is on the radio, and they're all fucking dancing around like the one guy's parents' appliance shop, and it's this like beautiful, joyous like exemplification of like what it feels like to be like, we fucking made it. Someone's playing our song. We don't get anything like that for Lady Gaga's character in this movie, and we sorely needed something like that. There's a similar scene in Lost, like in one of the later seasons, when they're having a flashback with Charlie and like the Drive Shaft band, and like they're in like the middle of an argument, and it's like raining and whatnot, and then the argument gets stopped because they hear that their song finally got played on the radio, and they're so upset. It's such a simple, easy thing to do that would have gone miles in this movie, to just be like, this is her lifelong dream, and we don't get to be there with her for it, because this movie is pretty focused on Jackson Maine as a character. And I think Bradley Cooper does a fine job acting out the Jackson Maine character. I think he's even better than Lady Gaga. But I think that's also partially because the movie focuses too much on him and not on the star, the titular star that's being born in this movie.
Well,
I don't know what time is for Allie.
Well, it's
in this like rise to fame, like what songs are on the radio, how high did they climb on the charts? we don't have any interactions with her and fans. Like, how recognizable is she? Like, is she like a, like,
it's just kind of like once she achieves stardom, like the movie becomes completely about Bradley Cooper, and it's strange, like shifting gears, because it's a completely different movie that's all about like substance abuse, which really isn't as interesting as what it starts, like the movie starts as, which is like Lady Gaga being like, oh my god, like this is like the discovery of talent, or this is like, just being like, I don't know, just security and honesty in everything. The movie just drifts so far from her so quickly that I have really like no idea what she thinks of like Allie when she is on SNL. Like, obviously, like, I know what Bradley Cooper thinks. He's like, oh, like, this is fucking stupid, and this
fucking hack.
This isn't Nickelback. She's talking about boys and their butts and jeans. It's like
It's what Chad Kruger thinks about when he's dating Avril Lavigne.
No, exactly. And it's fucking, honestly, it's fucking offensive. Like, to kind of like Lady Gaga is actually like this artist who is just like that. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of like borderline offensive, of just kind of like the movie
They didn't really give her character a lot of ammo when they have that argument where, like, she's in the bathtub and he's like, fucking whatever, like,
honestly,
anyone can write that. Doesn't mean anything. What happened to the message?
No, honestly, I don't know what Allie thinks of. It's just kind of like the first half of this scene is just kind of like, she knows like her self-worth. She knows like, oh, I know what I want to be when I am a pop star, and I know what I want to do and everything. And then she becomes a pop star on this SNL scene, and like we lose all sense of just kind of like, it's just kind of like when she's in the bathtub and Bradley Cooper's like, I want to know what you are like in your underwear, and like he's like mocking her and everything. It's just kind of like, I don't know if she's taking offense to that, or if she's just like fuck you, dude.
Yeah, she needed to stand up for herself.
Yeah,
and it didn't even need to be like a whole like meaningful
almost
type thing.
definitely.
She needed to just be like I had a chance and I took it, and like you would have done the same thing.
I honestly,
if you could remember what it's like to not be Jackson Maine.
Besides like calling off the dancers, I have no idea what she thinks of this.
Yeah.
I have no idea, because the entire first pass, like the entire first half of the movie, or first half an hour of the movie, I know exactly what she thinks. Mm-hmm. She's a very well developed character, and I know that she's just like, Jackson Maine is a fucking drunk, and I'm kind of going along for the ride, and this is what I need for my career. And then the second half of the movie, she's just kind of like, I don't know, I'm just kind of in the background, and it's only the opinion of Jackson Maine, and it's not only the opinion of this character. It's not just like Jackson Maine's like, oh man, she thinks about what other guys look like in their underwear, and it's fucking killing me. It's not only that, the fucking movie has that opinion. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, the movie's like, when you become a pop star, you're a fucking idiot, and you think of like what boys look like in their underwear. When in like the modern country kind of thing, like the whole modern country, whatever, what the fuck going on in country? All of country is just like, girls look good in their underwear.
Blue jeans.
It's exactly. It's that fucking shit. And it's just like, it was just fucking disgusting for like Jackson Maine to be like, oh fuck, I'm having an anxiety attack at SNL because she's thinking about guys and what they look in their underwear.
I'm fine with that being Jackson Maine's opinion, because it's a story about
But
him
that's
being
what the movie's
him
like.
being the
You're
old
right.
guard
Mhm.
and her being the one on the rise, and he can't really accept it, and he's jealous of that. I'm fine with it. The movie needed more conflict between the two of them, if I'm going to be honest.
But
They didn't give her a chance to defend herself as a character, and the movie wasn't willing to take a stance on either side of the fence.
the movie takes
Because it
the
portrays
movie takes an opinion very
it
quickly.
portrays her like a parody of pop artists.
Exactly.
Which, like, I don't know how Lady Gaga does that with a straight face and not being like, I wear crazier outfits than this. My
No,
hair is crazier
exactly,
than
right,
this.
yeah.
Like, and I'm the biggest fucking pop star in the world. Like, and my songs aren't like meaningless.
I thought that was so shitty. I thought that was so shitty for Lady Gaga. I don't know. I was just like immediately like it's fine if Jackson Maine's opinion is like that.
Yeah,
For
it should be that. That makes sense for the movie.
exactly. If he's like, well, I think pop is fucking bullshit, and I think like, you know, like if you think that's what like boys look like in their underwear, but then it's not only Jackson Maine, it's Bradley Cooper, who is also the director, who says, this is what I look like in like boys' underwear. It takes a really ugly angle,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I didn't like that.
So,
Go for it.
I mean, I'm trying to think. I think really the last thing that we haven't really talked about is the real end of the movie, which ends really abruptly. Like, so you sort of have like him. I really liked him at the Grammys, sort of falling off the wagon and making an ass of himself, which is also, it's a part of the original script, so that's going to be in there. But it felt real, like him, like being on like the side of the stage, being like, "Should I come up there? Should I?" Like, I think he gives an actually really seriously great performance in there.
Yeah.
I would have maybe tempered it down when he comes on stage and starts peeing himself, because it starts to become comedic there, and that should be a sad moment for me in this movie. It's not really a funny movie. And
No.
they sort of play it up for laughs, and it should have been a little sadder.
It's something that is.
I don't even know if they were trying to be sad there, but the way they framed it and staged that shot, like
It's
he's
not-
literally sitting there like,
When he's sitting on the stairs, it's not.
that was sad. That was dark.
But it was also something that wasn't realistic. Like I think there would be like 3 people on top of him that would be like assistants.
outta here,
That would be like, all right, why don't we go? Hey, like why don't we? But again, I can also understand the angle of like, I don't want to touch him. He's fucking Jackson Maine.
Yeah. But again,
right, you know?
part of that is establish who Jackson Maine is in this universe.
Right? No,
Truly.
most definitely, yeah.
You know, because like, I mean, Toby Keith does that. No one's not going to touch. Toby Keith's getting the fuck out of there.
Right, definitely.
But if it's like Justin Timberlake doing that, people are like, "Oh, Justin Timberlake." I'm not going to be the one that touches Justin Timberlake and whatever. Yeah, so like I like that scene, and then he makes an ass of himself. They bring him into rehab, and then I even kind of like some of the rehab scenes, because I think
most definitely.
I think the scene with his counselor, I'm torn, because I think this movie had almost too much of Jackson Maine for a movie that should be about Lady Gaga being called A Star Is Born. But seeing the scene with him and his counselor, and him like finally being vulnerable for once in this movie, made me also be like, oh, like I feel like we maybe needed more of that, and maybe he needed to be more vulnerable with Allie at some point in this movie. So I was a little torn. But you don't like the counselor scene?
What was the counselor scene?
When he's in rehab and he's out by like the pool or something, and his rehab counselor is talking to him, and he admits that like, I tried to kill myself when I was 13.
Well, okay.
It's the first like real like just
Most
uninhibited
definitely, right.
monologue
Yeah,
we
of
get from
course.
Bradley
I
Cooper's
like that.
character,
You
and
know
it's
what?
well delivered.
I like that a lot,
It sets
yeah.
up the finale. It explains a lot about his childhood, because like he's built up his dad through dialogue in the movie as being like this awesome guy, and really the only sort of opinion we have to the contrary is Sam Elliott being like, you were just his drinking buddy or whatever.
No,
but then he says like, oh, like I tried to kill myself. I hung myself from the fan, and the fan came down, and the fan sat there for like a week, and my dad didn't even like pick it up. Like that's such a telling. That's great screenwriting right there. That's character development for a character that's not even on screen. We understand his dad now, that like, oh, his dad was always an alcoholic. He couldn't even be bothered to pick up the fucking fan that his son tried to kill himself from, and he didn't even notice. Like, that establishes so much about Jackson and his dad and that little piece of dialogue, and it sets up, you know, where the movie ends up going ultimately with the death scene.
But ultimately, again, I think there's a scene where, you know, ignore that burp. I mean, I think where he talks,
Mike, cut that out in post.
where he talks to Sam Elliott and he says, you know, like, I didn't admire Dad.
It wasn't. It was Dad that I looked up to. It was you.
It was you.
It wasn't Dad that I looked up to.
No, and then there's a goofy scene where like Sam Elliott's like, like just like backing up or whatever. But again, as much as I don't like that scene, there's also just kind of, oh my God, there's just, I don't know. There's so much of this movie that I think was maybe like, again, where I don't think the ending was deserved, kind of, where it was kind of like, God, like maybe like the manager spoke to him and was like, listen, you know, like, I know you just went through rehab and everything was great there, but everything you do is fucks up her vision or whatever. And I hate the fact that he was just kind of like, let me just like fucking lay down on the grenade and be like, I'm the fucking sacrifice. Like, it's gross, and it's also like kind of like, instead of like, let me fix myself so that I can support my wife, instead it's just kind of like, I guess I'll just fucking kill myself, and I think that's fucking gross. I think that's like weird, and I think that's
No, because I think I kind of get it, because it's like he did go through the work, and he thought that he was going to be finally better, and you know, things are going to be here from whatever, and it just takes.
But I think he was fine before that manager talked to him.
No, I think you're right. I don't think the manager is fully what made him decide to kill himself. I think that plants the seed. Then they're in bed. And he's like, he's just been sitting there. He's staring at the fucking ceiling. I think Bradley Cooper gives a great performance in this scene, where just in his face, he doesn't even have like a word in that scene. He's just staring at the ceiling, and you know exactly what's been running through his mind all day, just from the expression that's on his face. And then she comes in and she lies to him, and she says like, "Oh, like we canceled my tour or whatever, so I'm just gonna like stay here." And it's great though, because I can be there and hang with you. And like, I think like you have those two. That's like a 1-2 punch. That's kind of like, fuck it, like. That's it.
I think that's some real selfish shit, and like that's fine. But I think
he is a self-absorbed character,
but I don't know. It ends in such a fucking I don't know. It ends in the wrong way.
It's not like a righteous thing that he does. Yeah. It's not him saving. Almost he thinks definitely. He is. He thinks he's saving Allie from himself. But I mean, they touch on it when they have the scene with Sam Elliott and Lady Gaga, where he's like, it's nobody's fault but his. It's not your fault, you know? Like, he did this to us.
It's not a new original scene on, like, drug addiction, though. I think it's just, like, it's kind of... Wait for it. It's a cop-out. I think it's a fucking cop-out on this, like, fourth remake.
We were just talking about this before, but I just want to have, like, a real quick plug for, if you're not watching... The Haunting of Hill House. Yeah, I'm only 4 episodes deep, but the 4th episode is like one of the best like depictions of addiction and the struggle of addiction that I've ever seen. It's a fucking tearjerker, despite being like a horror movie. But there's a lot that gets across in that episode. Can't highly recommend enough. But Cop Out.
I think it's like
they just didn't know how to end this movie, and they needed a melodramatic ending to.
Yep.
Close it off.
I think it's when you're Bradley Cooper and you're directing this film and you're like, what's the best ending I can give this film? What if I kill myself?
See, again, my thing is that all the other ones end with him killing himself, so I don't know.
Most definitely. Right.
It's hard for me to fault the movie for not being bold enough to be like, completely changed the ending from the other remakes.
And I mean, as we see with like something like Mac Miller or something and Ariana Grande, like it doesn't always end like great. But I don't know. I think like maybe there could have been some other ending. I don't know. I thought this was kind of like a cheap payoff. For the I didn't think that
So
this was the natural ending for this character in my mind. And I think that's just like my
I think my problem is
interpretation.
that, like I was trying to get into before, that like this movie is like conflicting for me because I think there's too much of Jackson Maine. But for a movie that ends with Jackson Maine killing himself, I feel like I didn't really know him that well, and I didn't really know what he meant to other people that well, and like it would have done a whole lot of work for me to, like, I know it's cliche, but have a fucking funeral scene, have Dave Chappelle there, let me see Dave Chappelle cry some real tears, and let Sam Elliott really let his tears out that he was trying to hold in that backup out of the driveway scene,
Right.
and like show us what Jackson Maine meant to these, like, because
But instead
we get one personal scene with Lady Gaga and Sam Elliott, and it's an okay scene, but it needs more. It needs a supporting cast of scenes around it to really close out the movie. Literally, he kills himself. Lady Gaga scene with Sam Elliott, and then we go right to like him getting like the fucking like in memoriam tribute at whatever awards
And the scene
season.
is so bad.
Yeah,
Because
it's like
she does like a Celine Dion song, and then it goes into like a
what's an
kind
original
of-
song?
Wait, it goes no. It's just like a Celine
That's a
Dion.
Celine Dion song.
No. It's just like a Celine Dion like
S.
type song, and then it goes into what was terribly just like this like oh God, remember the time that we like kissed, and like it goes into this weird like
Yeah, the
memoriam
flashbacks,
yeah memoriam flashback,
Which
and
like would be playing on the screen at the
and
awards show.
It was just kind of like, yeah, I know, I was there an hour ago. Like it was just like,
I didn't need to see it.
yeah, I know. Like it was just weird. Yeah.
They didn't like really give us time to grieve with the characters for Jackson's death. I didn't know the other characters well enough to feel for them. I knew Jackson pretty well, but like, I mean, him dying is just whatever. We should have felt that through the ripples of grief that he leaves for these characters that he's leaving behind, and like give us some more time with Allie to know her better. His best friend, give him more than a scene. You know, give us a little bit more with Sam Elliott. You know, they spent so much time on the wrong parts of this movie, and that's why I feel like there has to be like a 5-hour cut somewhere, knowing that it's Bradley Cooper's first movie.
Almost
He probably
definitely,
shot like way too
yeah.
much coverage and had this like grandiose script because he's been working on it for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then the studio's like, ugh, I don't know, we can't put out something longer than 3 hours, Bradley. We got to cut some fat wherever. And he ends up with an all right product in the end, but it's not the perfect movie that it maybe could have been had there been some more discretion elsewhere in this movie. But we've been running a little bit long. You want to get into some ratings here?
Some ratings.
Now that
yeah.
we get to the end of this. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, A Star is Born holds an approval rating of 89% based on 345 reviews with an average rating of 8.1 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, with appealing leads, deft direction, and affecting love story, A Star is Born is a remake done right and a reminder that some stories can be just as effective in the retelling. We had some Facebook comments as well that we'll read. Fatima Ahmad says Orange Hair Dye gets -2 stars, but Shallow gets 8 stars, so average that out. And former guest Amy Camacho,
Who's gonna be on
Uhas?
this episode?
I don't know how you pronounce it.
Almost. Amy Camacho. What?
Well, now she's got a new last name.
Oh, I don't know her new last name.
Uhas says A Star is boring. Yeah, let's get into some ratings. I can go first if you want.
Go for it.
All right. Overall, I liked the movie.
Yeah.
It was a pretty entertaining experience. I didn't hate it nearly as much as I wanted to based on the trailer. I think the trailer makes it pretty easy to hate.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
We also haven't talked about how like there's the really like, hey, I just want to get a look at you, and they bring that back a second time in this movie.
God,
There's like a
yeah.
callback to that, and like I always feel bad for Bradley Cooper, like not realizing that like I think he's pouring his like heart into scenes like this and not realizing that it's gonna be a fucking meme, because why else would you put it twice in the movie? Like you wouldn't put that twice in the movie if you had any ounce of recognizance of how silly that scene comes across.
Someone is here.
Just want to get another look at you. I think Bradley Cooper gives a really great acting performance. I think Sam Elliott is good. I think Andrew Dice Clay is really good in this.
Oh,
as
yeah,
Lady
definitely.
Gaga's
Yeah,
father.
yeah.
Like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, he's really great. Yeah.
He's great. And I think, like I said before, Lady Gaga obviously gives an incredible vocal performance, and she's not a bad actress. She hits all her marks, but I don't think she digs any deeper into the role like I wanted her to. And there's scenes where the one scene that really sticks with me is like after like the bathtub fight scene, and he comes to her like dance rehearsal thing for her upcoming tour or whatever, and he's like trying to be like, well, like I'll see you back at the house, and like she can't do as much with her eyes. Like, you know, she's getting the right inflection in her voice, she's saying what else with the rest of her body, but like her eyes are betraying her every time. Or like in that scene, she's supposed to be sort of like angry, but her eyes are just like really kind and open, and I don't know, that's the type of stuff I'm looking for if someone's going to be considered for like
most
best
definitely.
actress.
Right.
I don't want to like nag on Lady Gaga, because as a pop artist turned actress, she's one of the better ones that we've had. She's pretty fucking great. She's a good actress, if not a great actress. Just, I don't know if I would call this the best actress role for me this year. And then just the movie as a whole, I don't think it had a whole lot to say about art or love or
Most definitely.
fame or like even addiction. Even though it touches on all those topics, it couldn't really settle into one and come across with a clear message. I feel like it didn't fully tell the story it was really trying to, just on like a plot wise basis. Like I'm saying, I feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's just left on the cutting room floor somewhere for time's sake, and I think they need to consolidate a lot of scenes here and just be more effective with the time that they did spend here, because it's a pretty long movie. And it's not the worst script. I like a whole lot of parts of it. It's pretty good at parts. I think it's missing a few necessary scenes. I think it needed a few more drafts. But just from an aesthetic standpoint, I think the movie looks really good. It sounds amazing. We didn't even really talk about like some of the other like original songs in this movie. Like Shallows is really catchy, but like the Remember Us This Way, or Remember Me This Way, whatever that other one. It's the other like full song that Lady Gaga does in this. It's like a really phenomenal, just original song for this movie. Like I won't be surprised if this gets like 2 best song nominations, if not like 3. It depends what else comes out this year. But like,
Right. Yeah.
the pack seems to be getting thinner sometimes with those original songs, and there's some really good ones in this. And I think it's going to win over a lot of people just based on that aesthetic to it. Just sonically, it sounds good. And even like the mixing of everything sounds good, and it looks really good. And I can't even really fault anyone for falling in love with it in that way. But I think for me, it needs something deeper to truly compete to be like a Best Picture contender, much less front runner at this point. I know it's early. I'm going to give it 3.5 fingers. Not at all a bad experience, a pretty good experience. I was actually truly touched at parts of this movie, and just aesthetically moved by it, but still kind of lacking at parts.
Most
I
definitely.
could almost give it a 3, but I think I'm going to give it a 3.5 just because I'm still like listening to some of the songs
Right.
like a week after seeing it.
Yeah. Again, just to get into stuff that we haven't talked about, I think this movie drifts so far from her so quickly that I have no idea really what she thinks of the idea of Ellie, or like her new music, or like like her new stage presence or whatever. Like I know like the one thing the one detail like anybody in the audience knows is like, oh, I told my dancers not to come on, and like that's like the only thing that we know from there on out.
And it's almost supposed to be more telling of like the record label of being
Right?
like,
Yeah.
you don't get to tell the dancers not to
Right.
not be there.
And it's so weird because the character is so developed in the beginning, and she has such a strong sense of like self, and she knows exactly what she wants to do and exactly what she wants to be, where it's just kind of like, daddy, he's a fucking drunk, and I'm not gonna like take my fucking like one moment to like break out from this. And then it's just like once she becomes like a famous person, she's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what she really thinks.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like she's just doing her thing. And then again, like it's just kind of like once she does like the SNL performance, it's like I have no idea what Lady Gaga thinks of her own performance, but I know exactly what Bradley Cooper thinks.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper is like, oh, you just think about what the boys think of in their underwear.
You're really fucking ugly, you know that?
You just, you look at boys and immediately you think of what they look like in their underwear. And like, it's just like, we don't know what Allie thinks of that song, especially in the bathtub scene where he's like, I've been running it through my mind this entire time. You look good in that underwear. You look good in that underwear. You look good in that underwear. What does that mean? Like he's just fucking like it's crazy because like he starts with the songs. Like he starts with the fucking like Nickelback songs. They're just like country, sing it for me. Yeah, and then he gets to like fucking SNL and he's like, when you talk about boys in their underwear, it really makes a difference for me. That don't sound good for me. And it's so stupid. And like, it's not only just for that character, it's how the movie portrays it. And that's what I have the biggest problems with, is that the movie has a gigantic problem with what pop music sounds like. Like, I'm okay with Bradley Cooper sounding like some fucking country song. And again, 80% of country songs sound like what girls look like in their underwear. Dead serious. But like when Lady Gaga goes to what pop music sounds like, it's a very big detail. Again, not through Bradley Cooper's music, or not through Bradley Cooper's opinion, but through the opinion of the movie.
Yeah.
Where it's just kind of like, boy, you look good in your underwear.
You gotta change your hair color, and you gotta have backup dancers, and
Exactly.
it's all these like neon lights and stuff, and it's like in direct contrast to when she first does
It's
the first song by herself,
Oh my
where
God.
she's just the piano for
She's not
Remember Us This Way. Yeah.
She's not authentic anymore. Oh my God, she's not the girl next door anymore. Oh my God, she's a fucking slut. It's weird. It's fucking weird. I don't like it. I didn't like it at all during this movie, and I was waiting for some sort of, like, again, just like the kind of like, okay, Bradley Cooper, don't touch me. Just because you're a famous guy. It's just like, I was expecting her to be in the bathtub and be like, okay, well, don't fucking judge me because you don't understand this song. But again, I think the perception of this movie, through the director's eyes, which is how this movie is shot, it never really presents an opinion of like when she's like in the bathtub
Or on
and she's
anything.
Right? No. She's in the bathtub and she's like, "Well, don't say that about my song." I don't know what she means. Like, like, does she feel some resentment about that film? I mean, about this song, or does she
just
actually
angry that
feel?
he's not supporting her, or is she just defensive because he's attacking her, or does she
Exactly.
agree and she just doesn't know how to defend herself? And
Because she, at one point, she's like, "I didn't let the dancers come with me," and that's like a weird point where we don't really know exactly what she means. But yeah, I don't know, and it's just also strange because of what Lady Gaga is.
it seems like it's making fun of her. Or like
Right.
I don't know, like why she in this movie was not like, who's this a reference to?
Right? No, exactly. It's kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio was like, I guess she's wearing a fucking all meat dress. Like, what a fucking loser. You think this movie would have some sort of different angle or whatever? I don't know. And it just also starts out as such like a, kind of like, oh, it's a drag bar where we let some like straight girl like sing her heart out and everything, and that's so authentic and so real. And then like the movie progresses into like kind of like you're nominated for 3 Grammys and also everybody loves you, and like it's just weird. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't
It's,
see it either.
and also, this movie doesn't try to do anything different with addiction. He starts to like reckon with how terrible he is, and like, oh my god, I might be hurting her, and everything. And then he talks to the manager, and it seems like maybe like, my god, as a character, maybe I should figure out how to not hurt her, and maybe like I take like kind of like a back seat to her success, and I can be a better person to support her. Nope, he fucking kills himself, which is the most fucking selfish thing ever, and it's just fucking wildly weird for like the screenplay, instead of just like, God, like I've been so selfish this entire time. When she's the one who really deserves the recognition, it's just kind of like, nope, I'm gonna fucking kill myself, because that's what this movie needs. I don't know. And also, he kills himself. It feels cheap dramatically. It feels, it doesn't feel earned at all through that character, in my opinion. It feels like an Oscar move. It feels like, well, if I die at the end, it feels like
tearjerker.
Right? No. It feels like maybe people in the audience will cry for me, and therefore I will be best actor. And I fucking hated that, and I don't know. That's just exactly what I got from it. It's just kind of like it didn't try to take a new stance on an addiction. Real character, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. It was just shitty. It was shitty in my opinion. When he killed himself, like, I saw it coming from a mile away, but also I was like, really? I don't know.
Supposedly that was a 1 or 2, him killing himself. They edited in between because they have the cutaways to Lady Gaga, but they shot it in a 1-er.
Yeah.
Just something from the DGA podcast.
Yikes.
Again, like I think it's his first movie. I think it's pretty impressive for a first movie, and I think he had a lot of grand ideas, and maybe he needed someone a little more seasoned at the craft along for the ride. Like the thing that I was drawn to is that like listening to like Greta Gerwig on the DGA podcast, all she talks about is like, I asked this person, I took fucking notes. All I was doing was asking people is, how do they handle directing a movie? And like Bradley Cooper is just such a really confident guy because he is very talented, but I didn't hear anything from him on the podcast that was like, oh, and I called up this director friend and I called this guy and asked them. He did it the way that he thought it was supposed to be done.
I
And,
love Bradley Cooper. He's like a local dude.
oh yeah.
He cheers for the Philadelphia Eagles or whatever, whatever the fuck. But I don't know. It starts artful. It's like a really great film at the beginning, and then it ends with kind of like the masses being like, oh, I don't know.
Like I think he put a lot of his heart into this. Like especially hearing it on the DGA, like there's like things that I hated about the movie, but he's got like a personal defense of like the parking lot scene. He's like, me and my friends used to sit on those dividers between cars, and he's like, I don't know what that really amounts to. He's like, but I know I needed a place like that in this movie, and like that's somewhere where I can imagine two
It
people
should have been
connecting.
a fucking Wawa or something. It should have. I would have been all out like,
Wawa.
yeah, baby, it was a Wawa. Of course, he wrote
The
fucking.
The parking lot he was talking about that they used to say, he said like, you might recognize it, like Gennardi's or do you know what I'm talking about? I'm mispronouncing
fuck, it was a Gennardi's.
Is that what it is?
I used to steal from Gennardi's for an entire year. I used to steal from Gennardi's.
All right, we need a rating from you. You got a review. What's your numerical score?
Why are you bringing this up right after you brought Gennardi's up? That makes it really personal. I love Gennardi's. I've almost put Gennardi's out of business with two of my friends who haven't been on the podcast. I would give it a 3.5.
I don't know where you were going to land on this. Part of me was like, is Joe going to go for a 4? And then you really railed on it hard in your review there at the end.
I mean, like, what did I give La La Land? This is
Is that much lower?
oh, most definitely. And again, I love Bradley Cooper, and I love his connection to. I mean, again, I fucking hate. Like, in retrospect, I hate fucking the Silver Lining Playbook. I think it's gross. Like, I think it's like a gross interpretation of mental illness. I think it's a weird, almost racist interpretation of, like, just, like, Indian culture. Like, kind of like, oh, Bradley Cooper. Like, it was weird. It was just like
seen it. I saw it once in theaters.
oh no, most
watched it yet.
Yeah, no, definitely. Rewatching it was strange. Again,
You liked it on first watch, right? Or were you not? So
I was okay with it. I was like middle of the road with it, and then I rewatched and I was like, I don't know about this because I heard from people who actually have mental illness, and they were like, no, this is just fucking gross and disgusting kind of. This I'm okay with. I don't know. Again, it's a fourth remake of a movie. I'm okay with it. You know, it's just kind of one of those places where I'm like, you know, just like I haven't seen any of these other 3 movies, and I wish I could provide something else beyond that. Again, the last song, I wish it wasn't like a fucking montage of them.
They should have brought back again, like
I was there.
the performance of "Remember Us This Way" is fantastic, and like, sorry, the hiccups have come back. Oh God, tuned in last week or 2 weeks ago for a review of Venom. But when she does the God damn it, "Remember Us This Way" the first time. It's this like they do the whole song, like they sit on it for like 3 minutes, and it's just her at a piano, and like it's a really great song and a really great performance, but like know how to cut away from that in a movie, you know, like do the beginning half of that song and then, you know, cut away like you do with your sudden cuts in the rest of the movie and go to something else, and then to end this movie, a song that is like so lyrically relevant to the topic of the end of this movie of like, you know, don't remember me as whatever. I hope remember me this way. Like remember when we were happy and we were in love, and you know before things got all fucked up by fame. God damn, excuse me, and all the rest of whatever. Like do the beginning half of the song in that first scene, do a minute and a half, and then do the last half of the song as the last song she sings. It's a
Right.
much more powerful song, much more powerful vocal performance, and the lyrics are way more relevant. I know they wanted to have it be the song that he wrote or whatever.
Right. And the last thing I'm going to say is that I thought the substance abuse storyline was a little over the top. Because if you've ever witnessed somebody who's doing substance abuse, my God, that one scene at the award show is kind of like this. It's a very powerful scene, but again, it's also over the top. I think like 3 different people who were like assistants would pull you away. Who, if you were like just like sitting on the stairs and you were like, "Did you win?"
Yeah, as a
And-
character,
and I
he was
thought
he
that
was
was
kind of
kinda
he was kind of
funny,
missing
yeah.
like a manager and someone who like
Oh,
he
most
should have
definitely.
a
Like-
PR agent who
Oh,
would,
because Sam Elliott was gone, all of a sudden nobody like looks after him. Kind of, I thought that was kind of weird. Again, The Shallows. I love that scene. It's the best scene of the year. Again, I don't know. It's a fun meta movie. It's fun that like Bradley Cooper is teaching Lady Gaga how to be like a pop star, kind of. Like that's fun.
hey, get over here. Hey, I got something to say about boys' butts.
Again, overall, the movie has weird opinions about becoming a pop star, especially since it was like Lady Gaga was so natural and like Girl Next Door at the beginning. And then becomes like a girl who has a dance routine at the end. When Lady Gaga is a fucking woman who wears a fucking meat dress to an award show later. I don't know how she was like, not like, hey, Bradley Cooper, I'm fucking...
Offended.
Right, yeah, I'm not like a girl who's just like, pop song, I like boys how they look in their underwear. You know, I'm surprised it wasn't something more like that, and it wasn't just like country
It also
songs.
didn't make sense. I don't want to. We're way too deep into this. I don't want to get into a whole other thing. So I'll just say this
for
and
it.
we'll cut this fucking thing off. But like, she writes her own music for all of it, and it's like, oh, now that she has a record label, like the type of songs and what she's writing about changes. Like she goes from like, oh, you know, like remember us this way, and I'm diving off the deep end. I'm in the shallows or whatever. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, what are you thinking, having like an ass like that? Whatever that song is. Like, you know, like obviously like the record company has a say in like the dancers and whatnot, but like, is she just a performer now and she's just performing songs the record label is handing us? And if so, that was not covered at all in the movie.
It's also
So explain like where did she get to this? I'm so sorry for these hiccups, guys. We're gonna be out of here real soon, but
yeah.
we didn't get to like where did that change come for her as a songwriter? Like,
It's
again,
also
we know so little about
Yeah.
her as a character in this movie.
It's also like Bradley Cooper's not like the hottest guy in this movie either. Like his skin looks so leathery and alcoholic and everything. It's just kind of like the first time where she's like, I want to make out with Bradley Cooper. Like when they're like kind of like making out, I was like I was just kind of like, dude, he's got to fucking smell so bad. Like he's got to fucking taste so bad. He's fucking like the gross. Like he hasn't stopped drinking in the last 5 years. He's not hot. He's gonna be the fucking grossest. Like he's so drunk. He was gonna fuck you, but he just fucking fell asleep.
I
kind
do
of.
like that
Yeah,
scene,
yeah.
though.
And I love that, but it's also kind of like she wants to make out with him, but he's just like. And it was just kind of like, this is so unrealistic. It was just, I don't know. I'm going to give this film 3.5 fingers.
Anyway, all right. So that'll come to 3.5 for us. Total. God damn. Excuse me. Here for us on the podcast. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment below on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're hearing, watching, and or listening to this episode, finding out about this episode. That's about all we got. I cannot stop these hiccups, so let's get the fuck out of this episode. You can find all our shit at howmanyfigurespodcast.com. We'll see you next week for
whatever we review.
A First Man.
Yeah.
Something like that. Suspiria, maybe. We'll see. One of those. All right. See you guys next week. Goodbye.
Later.